Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Leonie Jackson. I'm actually one of the faculty advisors for MDX Works, your careers and employability department. This is a very special day, and again, thank you for joining us. It's in regards to diversity and inclusion, and we'll be doing a panel today. The aims of this event is to inspire Black and minority students and our alumni to consider job roles in various industries. Our panel speakers include people from different career backgrounds as well, and they'll be here to give us an insight about opportunities and challenges that they might have got experienced themselves, and also just why they've decided to go into their chosen professional fields. So I will proceed just to introduce you to the people that we have on our panel today. And before we get started as well, I'll ask everybody if you can just keep your mics on mute as well, so we don't have any background interference. So the first person we're going to introduce today is Bayo Igo. Are you here today?
Yes, I am. I'm here
today.
Hello,
Bayo.
How are you?
I hope I pronounced your name correct.
Yeah, that's fine. Bayo Igo, or if you're Nigerian, Bayo Igo. Yeah, that's me.
Bayo Igo. Okay, and thank you for joining us today. I'll let you just kind of do a brief introduction about yourself, and you know why you're here today and some of your background, if you don't mind.
Excellent. Yes, sure. I'm an alumni. I was at Middlesex 1989 till 1992, I believe, law and economics. I wanted to pursue a career in law. That didn't happen. I ended up in housing for many years. I probably, 1991 to about 2016, I would describe it as a pretty good, illustrious career in housing. However, for whatever reason, isms, this, that, and the other, and I'll explain a bit more in detail, I didn't reach the pinnacle or my stated ambitions. So around 2015, 2016, I started to think about what else could I do? How else could I fulfill my own personal dreams and aspirations, and also look after a young family and pay bills? So I decided to set up my own coaching and mentoring practice. So I'm currently an executive coach and mentor, work with professionals and small business owners. And the best way to describe it is to get them from A to B, get them to understand overwhelm, get them to understand planning is key, but also get them to understand that believing in their dreams and believing in their aspirations will require action. So I'm all into supporting people taking action. Why am I here today? Kind of obvious, but I think really it's about how we as individuals shape our future by understanding the environment in which we work. And sometimes we have to accommodate, but most importantly, we have to push harder than we would necessarily need to if things were all equal, and things aren't all equal, so we have to push harder. What you need to understand is by pushing harder, you need to ask the right questions, be in the right places, and have the right support groups and mechanisms to help you get to reach your goals and aspirations.
Thank you very much. And I would like to go on to our next guest, Joden Joseph. Joden, are you there?
Yes, hi, thank you for having me. Yeah, so just to answer the question, my background, well, I'm currently studying psychology with counselling skills, and I've just finished off my placement year within an IAP service, improving access to psychological therapy service. And so again, my background is I had a bit of a change in my background as well. My background is within the performing arts industry. I'd done that for several years, got into drama school, and then I sort of relinquished my scholarship to go on to do psychology and counselling. And for me, it was more so because my sort of close proximity to people within my community, within my own family and friendship groups who had issues around youth violence, mental health issues, substance misuse issues, and so on and so forth. And so my passion kind of derives from my closer unit, and obviously having learned about it in education and so forth. And so for today, I'm here because, I think it's just about sort of representation. There's often the sort of typical ideas around, especially Black males, of feeling as though there's limited career pathways to go down. And so I enjoy being a part of this space to sort of encourage different minority groups to engage with various career pathways, particularly counseling and psychotherapy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you both of you for being here today. And we value, you taking the time to answer some of our questions. So just to let everybody know that's here today as well, I'll be asking some of our guests some questions, and they'll be giving a little bit of insight in terms of answering those questions. If anyone does have any questions, you can also type in the chat box as well, and we'll aim to try and pick up those questions towards the end of the session. So the first question I will put towards is Jordan. Am I pronouncing your name right as well? I hate getting people's names right.
Yes. A lot of people get it wrong, so.
Okay. Okay, well done. Okay, so the first question is about where it all started, Jordan. So did you always want to work in industry, or is it something that came to you later on?
Yeah, as I sort of alluded to, it came later on. Again, growing up in sort of East London, I wasn't really aware of, I wasn't aware of certain career pathways until much later in my journey. I knew I was good at creative subjects, particularly performing arts. I mean, all my sort of GCSE grades were quite average, and then my performing arts grades were just, quite high. So I had a career advisor who made me aware of a performing arts school, which I later understood was, quite well recognized. And so I went to this school for about 3 years, where, I sort of learned how to direct, to act, to do script writing, and so on and so forth. But sort of the transition between going from college to university, I kind of struggled because everybody in my school wanted to go drama school. I wasn't quite sure. Again, I was conflicted because of a lot of the issues that were quite present for me in my community, in my family, and so on and so forth. So I kind of, not that I fell out of love with performing, but I realized there was a much more pressing issues on my doorstep. So I felt as though, I could equip myself with the right skills and tools to be able to make that meaningful impact within my community. And so I went drama school for less than a month. And I think I deferred my place at drama school. And during that period, I decided that I would actually take advantage of this unique opportunity to kind of go to uni. And again, that was a new experience to me. I had never really considered going uni because the whole thing was, you're going to be an actor, and then I had some inhibitions because I didn't do too well in science, and I knew doing psychology and psychology positioning itself as a scientific subject. I had some inhibitions, but once I got in there, I seemed to settle in quite well. Got a lot of good feedback from staff who actually encouraged me to pursue a clinical psychologist doctorate once I finished. And at the time, it still felt a bit far-fetched. I just came in the course. I was still a bit unsure of my capabilities and so forth. And I think now, being in my final year, having done a placement year, studied in different modes, part-time, full-time, I'm now a lot more confident in my capabilities and, feel a bit more settled in this craft. So, I think, again, with my journey, I think what I would say to people is that don't be afraid to take that step. I think oftentimes, especially in this society, people want you to specialize in one thing or do one thing. And if you ever try to step out of the box, it's like, oh, that's not what you do. You're a tennis player or you're a business person, you can't do this other thing. And actually, I think that, you have to be the sort of master of your own journey in that sense. And so, yeah, if you feel compelled to go into something different for whatever reason, I would encourage people to do that. Again, for me, in my case, it's been working out so far. But yeah, that's my transition, I would say.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Very inspiring. Just in terms of like some of the information you gave us as well, like why you ended up going into your industry, and you went through a university path as well. Would you say that you had a lot of encouragement behind you as well, like additional to? Do you think that was a factor that kind of pushed you in that direction, or was there somebody that motivated you?
I don't think initially. I think it was. As I said, I was inspired by people that I saw go through hardship, experience inequalities within systems to do with the criminal justice system and mental health institutions. And so I think I just had a desire to redress some of those issues. So that was my initial phase. And then once I actually kind of pursued this pathway, I think I found people that were really supportive of my journey. And I'm meeting people more and more as I go along my journey. Again, because there's a real paucity for Black men in this industry, I would say, I think a lot of people have really encouraged me along my journey. Why I chose uni? For me personally, I'm not necessarily an advocate of going uni just for the sake of going uni. But I believe in my career path, it feels quite essential to actually get those qualifications to progress in any sense of the way. But for people that are considering where to go next, I think they would have to consider their specific pathway, because I don't think every single career necessitates uni enrollment. But yeah, for me, as I said, I felt it was quite necessary.
Thank you, Jordan. Some really good points. And especially, I think the point that you spoke about in terms of about career paths in university, just knowing where the connection is it essential? Do you need to do work experience? Just kind of understanding why you're doing that degree as well. So thank you for that. Just one more question. I don't want to run over time, but also just one more question for you, Jordan. What do you think were the most important skills that you learned while studying? And when I ask that, I mean like not just academic, but even personally.
Some of the most important skills. I think I sort of said it already in terms of not being afraid to try. I think education has this feeling of you have to get it right. You have to get this specific grade and that will get you this job and so on and so forth. And I actually, it is all about learning. And I think with learning, you obviously make mistakes. You obviously have your own ways of learning. I mean, just in this placement year, I found out that I was dyslexic. And so that kind of, had an impact on the way that I approach my studies. But yeah, I would always encourage people not to kind of, I don't know, people kind of, as I said, people like to put people in sort of boxes and label people based on their learning styles or what they should do or what's suitable to them. Especially, research will show us, especially with Black people, we're told, go do sports or go do music or whatever it is. So I would say even if the thing feels really far-fetched, because even this career felt far-fetched to me at a point, I would say dare to try. And in that trying, do it your way. You know, I don't go into rooms and try to pretend to be, you know, a middle class white guy, because that's not me. You know, I just present myself as I am, and try to be authentic to who I am, and represent my community. So I would say just try to keep that sense of why you got into the thing in the first place, you know, because you can go to spaces and people can kind of, you know, make you feel you have to conform. I think one of the main things I've sort of learned on my journey is just, remembering why you're on that path, and just remaining consistent and determined along that pathway. If that answered the question, I think I went.
No, it definitely answers the question. Definitely, especially in terms of like what you said about being authentic. Definitely agree with that. No matter what space you're in. I think that's everybody's unique selling point, isn't it, really? Thank you, Jordan. Bea, are you still there? I can't see you on my screen.
Back.
You're back, yes. So, you're going? No.
I hadn't gone anywhere, no.
Oh, I thought you'd gone because I couldn't see on my screen, sorry. Okay, so my next question is to you. So in terms of, this is a question relating to diversity in the workplace. Bea, do you ever feel that as though you've come across any barriers in getting where you are within the industry currently?
Within industry currently, possibly, probably, it comes and goes. But I'm of an age where that happened to me over 30, 40 years ago. So you build resilience, you build skill sets, you build friendships and groups, but most importantly, you build strategies and tools to overcome them. So as Jordan was saying, he's talking about authenticity, he's talking about learning, he's talking about vocational learning or academic learning. You find yourself in a space or a spot, and then you fight accordingly. There are some fights you can't win because you haven't got the experience or the knowledge or the training to have that fight. But fortunately for me, I've been in enough of those to be able to say, right, bring it on, let's take it on, let's do what we need to do. But to answer your question, of course, there have been situations where I wonder if I wasn't who I was, would I have got that? Yeah. I wonder if I was a bloke or a man, or a black man with a South London accent, a black man who's got 5 chips on his shoulder, would he or would not have got those things? But equally, it's my responsibility to say, actually, I'm going to go for this because I'm going to give it the best of who I am. I'm good enough, long in the tooth enough and experienced enough to be able to say, I can go for that and I shall get it. If I don't get it, and Jordan made a very good point, you have to reflect and ask yourself why. It's not always because you were this or that. It may well be because you weren't up for it. And so you have to ask the question, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And the best way to ask the question is to go into the lines then and say to those people who didn't take you on, why not? And if they can't give you a good reason, a real reason, authentic reason, then you can say to yourself, you could take a running jump. I'm better than that. I'll move on. But if they give you constructive feedback, then you take it on board and add that to your armory for the next time and for the next challenge and for the next opportunity. But of course it exists. It exists left, right, and center. But as I said, I dwell on it in the moment and then I move on because life is too short.
Thank you for that. In terms of, I mean, this is kind of, it's not actually not on the questions that are meant to be there, but this is my own personal question. So if you've ever dealt with, you know, any kind of barriers, or let's just say if you feel like discrimination, how have you been able to, have you always had a support there where you're working? How have you basically got through that? Because I think it's really important for maybe we might have undergraduates here or people that are just about to go in their industries that might experience something and they don't know if that's discrimination or is it not discrimination? Am I being too sensitive? It might be kind of quite a lonely journey as well. So how did you get that support? How did you get your strength? Because obviously, as you said, you've been through it, you recognize it, you know the strategies and how to deal with it. But what would you say to somebody that is just going into an industry that could possibly face those barriers, which are unconscious bias, let's just say, that they're facing, and it's kind of really limiting them or making them feel not included?
Unconscious bias being the worst of the lot. So you go into a room and you're the only black person in there. Many a boardroom, many a senior leadership team. So the first experience is, I think you need to ask yourself, who in here, or what is my manager doing? What is my peer group doing? Who is supporting me? What's the conversation we having? And I think we should be worldly enough to know when language is being used for hearsay or for ticking the boxes. So it's about establishing what is the relationship with you and your manager or your team. How are they supporting you? How are they covering your back? Where are they putting you into? What situations are they putting you into? And if you find yourself to be in a dodgy situation or a situation which you feel uncomfortable, you need to report that back as soon as possible. You need to call it out. The mistake I made for the first 15 years was not calling it out. I had discussions with my family, my friends, to say, gosh, this happened, boom, boom, boom. What should I do? Hold it down, babe, hold it down. Just go back and work harder. Hold it down, babe, hold it down. Just go back and prove you're better. That was great, but it was tiring. You just got to call it out. And the way to call it out, particularly if you're just starting off, is maybe not to take on that person directly, because you never know what's going to happen, but you go to your management team, you go to your peers, you hopefully should have a mentor, possibly a coach, but you go to them and say, this is what happened. This is how I feel. What should I do next? Then you come together with a strategy and then you approach it that way. It does also depend on your character, depends on your job, depends on what position you're in. You can call it out sooner rather than later. It will make you stronger. It will definitely make your organization stronger. Because sometimes you just need to say as it is. And for those environments, it's about being confident, but your confidence comes from having a good support team around you. So to summarize, if you're up for it, if you know what you're talking about and you know you're going to get some support, call it out. If you're unsure about the support mechanisms in that place where you think the person's been dodgy, discriminatory, or against you, you have to have that conversation with your line manager or your management team and or colleagues. And you build up the resilience, you build up the knowledge, and then call it out as soon as possible. And calling it out doesn't mean having an argument. It's about being constructively telling that person what you said, what you do is not appropriate in this place. And I would like you to think about that. Or you say, if this is the way you behave, then I think you and I have to have a discussion outside of this place because I do not feel it's appropriate. And or you say to your line manager, this is what I've experienced. I do not think it's appropriate. What is the organization going to do about it? I hope that might prove helpful.
Very helpful, very helpful. Thank you for that. So in terms of, I just got a few more questions, and then what we'll do is we'll open it up into our chat box, because I'm hoping there's questions for our panelists as well. So I'll ask Jordan, and then Bea, I'll ask you the same question after as well. In terms of your journey to university, what does it mean to you personally?
It means a lot. As I said, I never really considered myself being someone that would go uni because of the pathway I was, expected to go down. But going into my final year now, as a, Afro-Caribbean, somebody that suffers with dyslexia, coming from East London, a lot of things where statistically, even just, my family set up and so forth, statistically, I would have been written off. You know what I mean? Statistically, I should probably not be in uni, to put it, mildly. And so to be able to go through this journey the way I have, having done many placements, worked throughout uni, got all relevant experience by now, it would be quite, yeah, it would be quite something, to be honest. I don't even have a real articulate word to use, because I just think it would be quite meaningful, you know, having, you know, even when I was doing my placement, I had the opportunity to write one of the articles for the NHS, and I was just reflecting on, you know, my nan coming over here from St. Lucia. You know, she didn't go through education at all. She just worked, and she's worked for however long in this country. And I just think to myself, you know, that sacrifice has allowed me to be in this space and afforded me the opportunity to study, you know, with all the technology and stuff that we have available. And so to be able to graduate would be a great achievement. But I don't get so caught up in this whole thing of, you know, you graduate, you got this sort of paper that says that you are quote unquote clever, or you've attained this grade. I'm not so caught up in that. I just think it's a great achievement to put yourself through that vigorous process. I think for me, what is most meaningful thereafter is actually, you know, achieving what you set out to do. The uni process is a vehicle for me to actually support and, as I said before, redress some of the failings in the system that I have observed. So for me, the greatest achievement would be to actually move into those spaces to be able to enact some of the things that I feel are necessary. Again, you know, I found it very interesting when Bayo was talking, even just around, you know, this idea of calling things out. And again, you know, when you're looking at, particularly for me anyways, I tend to, a lot of my work focus on the Black community. You know, a lot of us may find ourselves in insecure positions, whether it's housing, employment, and so on and so forth. So we haven't really, especially when I'm thinking of my nan's generation and probably even before that, we haven't really had the space, or we haven't been in positions where we felt we could call things out because of being in insecure positions in society. And, you know, for the most part, many of us are still in those positions, so it can be difficult. But I think, as Bola was saying, Bayo was saying, is that, you know, I think more and more people are becoming more conscious of a lot of the quite stark inequalities out there. And I think it's getting more, a lot of people are becoming more keen to actually use their voice and actually take up space. And I find it interesting. A lot of the times I get labeled with this idea of being an activist or whatnot, but I wonder if it's possible to exist as a, you know, a Black person in this country and not, you know, unless you kind of take on a sort of apathetic, mute position. I wonder if it's possible not to actually take on that position and end up being what they quote unquote call an activist. You know, if you are taking up space, if you're actually using your voice and calling things out, as was said before, I think it kind of part and parcel of where we are at in society. But I've kind of gone off. But yeah, I think definitely uni itself is an incredible vehicle. But I think for me, I'm always keen to focus on that end goal. Because again, even the uni system in itself is the next thing. But, you know, we appreciate the opportunity nonetheless. Yeah. You're on mute, Leon.
So I'm chatting away. So I want to pose the same question to Bayo as well, please. Thank you.
I remember the gist of the question, but I want to follow up exactly where Joda left off, and he's made some really great points. I was to reflect on calling it out. I think I said it comes with confidence. You're not going to do that first off, unless it's your business, unless you're surrounded by your own people and feel confident. You need to build that confidence. You need to be aware of your space and their space. in order to call it out. And that doesn't happen over the time unless you are so confident consequences aren't important. But equally what Jordan said, and this is where I'm coming from as well, is my parents didn't go to uni. My parents came to this country 64, 66 from Nigeria. They had no notion of education in that formal sense when they came here, but what they wanted for their 3 children, myself and my 2 sisters, is the best that they could be based on what was out there for them to take on board. And my old man would say, education, education. Long before Cameron, long before John Major, education was important. But what you also recognized, it was not just academic education, pieces of paper. It wasn't just certification. It was about vocational education. It was about experiences. It was about knowing what's right and wrong. It was about, do you know what? We're Africans, but we're surrounded by English people. Get to understand them, because it might be difficult if you don't. And so going to school for him was, you know, read books, understand it, learn your maths, learn your English. But by the way, if you can get a chance to go to university, go, see what happens. Now, Middlesex is a great university. It was a polytechnic when I was there. And it wasn't a university when we were there. So a lot of people that went to further education were going to establishments because they didn't know that they could be in a better place or could do better, but we wanted to further our education. So when I got my first degree, I was elated. It was amazing. And I went home because I felt when the last time I was on this platform, my first A levels were 2 U's and a C. And then I said, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to go again. And I got 2 B's and a C to go to poly. And when I got to poly, I found out people were going to other universities to study law. And I said, I can do that as well. And I went on to do that. But what you do find when you go to a place of further education is you meet people and you see things that you may not be privy to see or experience before. And that then can help mold you. And that then can help you get into rooms, have doors open that assist you in your growth. But the problem we all have is that sometimes we go through a door and we shut the door behind us. And then the people, the next generation, the next part of our community are often left behind. What we should be doing and what we should be thinking first is, I've got here, I'm going to do well here. But most importantly, I'm going to open a door for my friends, my family, and others in my community to come through too, if they want to. Because it's still their choice. They might want to go somewhere else, fair play. But if you've got a door open and you've tasted the manna, as it were, the bread, the moolah, the money, and it's good, and you want other people to come in there as well, got to leave that door open. And that's what good universities do. That's what good further education does. But Jordan is right. It's not about the paper. You can have paper and names all over the shop. That ain't going to get you a job. Where's the work experience? And even if you get the work experience, it's not what you know, it's who you know. How are you going to know those people unless you go out there and find out? So yeah, my poly life was great. My uni life is great, but it's the people you meet on the way that really shapes what you're going to be when you move forward.
Thank you. Thank you both. We've only got one question. It's a bit disappointing. So we've only got one question, which I think probably either is Sophie there or Andre could maybe answer this. So a student is asking, do we have any mentors in the university for 3rd years in diversity and inclusion?
I'm not actually sure if we do have specific mentors, but we do have kind of groups set up, and you can get coaches and mentors to support you whilst you're at university. Bayo, I don't know if you wanted to say something.
Am I muted?
No,
I'm actually a Middlesex alumni mentor. I mentor a couple of people through their 3rd year journey. So they do exist. There's a mentorship program at Middlesex.
Amazing. You know more than me.
Okay, let me just see if there's any
I
more
have
questions.
a question to ask,
Okay.
if possible. So if we're looking at your industries now, has COVID affected kind of the way that you're working at the moment, or kind of any of your kind of normal practices as part of the industry that you're working in? Because I'm sure there'll be people just interested to maybe know that as well, how that's maybe differed for you, how you've adapted. Yeah.
There's been pros and cons. I think, obviously for a lot of people, remote working has been introduced, which has helped people work flexibly. But of course, particularly for sort of mental health, of course, there's been a decline and deterioration in many people's mental health because of the self-isolation, the lockdowns, the uncertainty, obviously loss of jobs and so forth. Again, even in the prison systems, you have people not able to make have visits. There's no visits. I know they've changed things up so you can do like video camera thing, but it's not the same. Obviously most of them look forward to visits, so that's changed. What else? Of course, again, going back into mental health, obviously there's going to be an increase in waiting times because of, sort of surges in people being referred. Again, there's a lot of services that offer self-referrals, so many people are referring themselves as well. I know during lockdown also, like, courts were, I don't think people were being processed as well, so there's delays there. So yeah, there have been a few changes. But again, I think it was a period for especially in this country where people was really trying to develop protocols and new ways of working and so on and so forth. So I think, moving forward, I think people are becoming a lot more better at managing things, even whether it's uni or work-wise. People, a lot of organizations and institutions are becoming a bit more conversant of how to work in these very strange times. But yeah, there have been some changes. Those are the ones that come to mind. Yeah, of course, there's been priority for frontline workers as well. Yeah, that's what comes to mind anyways.
Thank you, Jordan. Another question that's come up here. I'll put this probably to both of you. Maybe Bayer, you can answer this first. Have you had any mentors for you personally that's helped you along your journey? And how would you recommend anybody that's here today to go about getting a mentor in general?
Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
So yes, I have a mentor now. I have a coach now. I probably have had a mentor since 1991, on and off in various guises. I think let's not get hung up with the titles. Some mentors are informal relationships. It could be your best mate or your best member of your family who's just sitting there and having those discussions with you about how, why, what, for, where, and when. You come back and you're thinking, oh gosh, this is not happening, this is not working, or how did you do this, where did you do this, how did you do that? And that person could just take you aside and have that discussion with you. Or you can have a formal relationship, as you will find through Middlesex, where they will pair you up with someone who is going to help you on that part of your journey. Because what a mentor does is someone who's going to listen to you, try to understand where you are on your journey, and bring to the table their personal experience and knowledge to support you to continue that journey. So really your best friends should be mentors, because you're going to have that banter, you're going to have that discussion. Then on a formal basis, you can find someone within Middlesex or in your place of work. That's where I found my first mentors, was when I used to work for the London Borough of Lambeth, and the managers there, they didn't call me mentors. When we were having coffee, they were talking about stuff. Oh my God, what's he? But when you reflect 5-10 years later, they were just holding you back, steering you in the right direction. Don't do that, don't say that, don't be like this, be like that, boom, boom, boom. And that's really what your mentor does. So yeah, I think mentors are powerful. There are organizations that people are involved with where they will work with young people who are described as disillusioned, disenfranchised, dysfunctional, but all they need is a light, and that's what a mentor can do, be that light to support them on their journey moving forward. A coach is a completely different kettle of fish-ish, but again, you asked about mentors. If you can get one, grab one, especially if you're a Middlesex student, and if you can't do it formally, talk to a friend or a family member or someone you work with who can talk to you about pros and cons, do's and don'ts.
Yeah,
Thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I would agree. I haven't had a formal mentor, but over time I've had various people who, whether it's in a professional capacity, they've supported me to understand how to streamline my career. Or you have people who know you in like, whether it's like faith-based capacities, who can guide you. And you know, you might have, as was said before, just maybe you know, friends or family that you trust, not to be yes people, but people that can be help you and guide you to make decisions in your best interest. But I think it's an interesting question, because I do feel that, especially in an industry like mine, but I'm sure it relates to many different industries, you know, there needs to be, and maybe it's already out there, but there needs to be more visibility in terms of, you know, Black professionals across different fields that are offering their time in that way. I know actually I said I've never been mentored. Last year, I was a part of the Ministry of Justice's mentoring scheme. So I've done that for about 6 months, which was good. But I do feel that, yeah, you know, I think you do want to feel, as was said before, you do want to feel a sense, some level of, I don't know, you want to feel close to that person. And I think for me anyways, especially in my career, it would be more appropriate to have somebody that is experiencing some of the issues that I'm experiencing. You know, I hate going on about it because it's a thing that always comes up, but in many industries, you know, you come across some of these intersectional issues, whether you're a Black female in an industry that's white, male dominant, or you're, in my case, in an industry that's white, female dominant, and then you're the Black male. And so it would be preferred to have Black men or women that can represent and mentor those coming up in their career, so to speak. So that's something that comes to mind as I'm thinking about these things. That question, sorry.
Thank you both. Okay, so just looking at time, we've only got approximately 12 minutes left. So we've got a few more questions here. So have you had, oh, okay. Hello, Jordan. How did uni help you with your dyslexia? Did you feel supported enough about that? You're on mute, by the way. Jordan, you're still muted.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, yeah, they did help me. I actually done my assessment and everything through uni. Again, obviously, because I've been working with it over years, I had developed my own learning styles and ways of sort of coping with it. And I was quite surprised how well I'd done, you know, not knowing, not being aware of it. But it has helped me. Initially, it was a bit of a shock, but it has helped me in terms of just thinking about how I approach work. And it's, you know, you kind of have all these revelations of, oh, that's why you do things in this way, and so on and so forth. But the uni was really helpful in terms of getting me assessed. It was quite a comprehensive assessment, and you get quite good feedback on your learning style and how you can get support, again, even within placement. You know, you're given certain software to help you, you know, complete tasks and so on and so forth. But again, you know, even with these difficulties, I think, you know, there are many, especially in the creative industries, many people who have been very successful even with dyslexia. So again, for me, I don't really look at it as, obviously it's considered a disability, but I don't, as ironic as it sounds, I don't let it disable me in that sense. You know, it's something I'm aware of, something that I have to work with, but ultimately I have been living with it for however long, and I'm able to work, and, you know, very competent anyways. So I would say, you know, when you say you have dyslexia, many people have stereotypical ideas about what that means, and obviously there's a spectrum. So I would just say, get the support that you need, and you know, still challenge yourself. Don't let it sort of, you know, limit you in any way, because it's just a helpful thing to know, but not something to kind of, as I said, you know, yeah, hinder you from progressing.
Thank you, Jordan. So we have one more question from someone that's anonymous. So I'll put this really to both of you. It's quite a long question. So the person here says, sometimes there are family pressures, especially in Black and ethnic minority communities, to study particular subjects. Do you recommend doing what you're passionate about, or is there value in pursuing something that brings you more security? I'm taking it's more financial security, job security, the person's talking about.
I can answer, but do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. I suspect 80% of people who are doing their jobs today did not study it or want to do it when they were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Circumstances and life change as you move along your journey. But if you really are passionate about something, go for it. My old man wanted me to be a doctor. That won't happen. As I said, I failed my maths and I failed my physics and my chemistry. I passed the maths. I've got 3 young sons, all different and different abilities, different goals, different desires. I'm just saying, go for it. If I can provide the space and the support, I'm just gonna say, go for it. But it's tough out there. And sometimes, I mean, I coach small business owners, and some of them are doing what we call a side hustle. Either they're working to pay the bills, to keep their family afloat, but they're pursuing their dreams. So if you could try and do both until you can really realize your dream, that's my preferred option, because it is tough out there. And, you know, as Black minority ethnic people, I can send you reports. We're not getting the financing, we're not getting the support, we're not getting the infrastructural support in order to do what we would like to do. We haven't got the space, and there's the isms all over the shop that could hold you back. So if you can do a day job and push your side hustle until your side hustle overcomes your day job, that is what I would pursue. But if you're talking about what do I do after my A levels, think long and hard. Think long and hard, because it's you know, you've got to have that support network, mentor, coach, family, dream, a plan, a real plan, a business plan of how you're going to pursue what you're going to pursue. And if you can't tick those boxes, hold on to something else until you can.
Yeah, I would say something quite similar. I think for me anyways, like when I was passionate and wanted to go into the performing arts industry, my family barring my mum, she was the only one that was of support. Most of my family said, you know, Black people don't make it in this industry, yada, yada, yada. And then when I got into the college I got into, then there was a sort of feeling of, okay, maybe you'll be all right. Then I got a scholarship, and then there was more confidence in me. And then I decided to change to go into psychology, and then the doubts came again. The point is, you are the only one that's going to have to live with those decisions ultimately. And when I made my transition from performing arts to psychology, my mom, the only thing she asked me is this something that you think you will regret? You know, is this something you're sure of? Are you sure you're passionate about this? And I think, you know, oftentimes passion is just thrown about, but it is the only thing that's going to sustain you when you have dissertations to do, when you have all these other things to do that are just not as fun as you might anticipate your subject being. Your passion is the thing that's going to keep you going. But I think it was a good point that was made. It is difficult out there. And for me, not every subject necessitates you going to uni. So if there is a more secure thing you can study in uni whilst you pursue your passions vocationally, I would probably do that. Because for me, somebody that I went to performing arts school in college, but again, there's many who have gone through that route, the creative industry route, without any need. You know, you think of the Idris Elbas and so forth. They didn't go to formal education. So if you were doing something like that, that was creative, do that in your own raw, talented, you know, space, rather than, you know, completely dedicating yourself. Because again, I can tell you from somebody that studied creative subjects, agents don't typically go, from my understanding, they don't typically go to unis anyways. They go to drama schools, and they go to spaces where, you know, they already have the network. So for me, I've never understood why people, you know, go to uni for these subjects. But, you know, if you feel it's necessary, I know some people studying classical and stuff like that, which may be a bit different. But yeah, as I said, if you can do something vocational and then do something that is just financially easier, in inverted commas, then do that.
Thank you, Jordan. I mean, do you think it also depends on like the person's personal situation, their priorities? So I think that can change the choice that you have to make as well.
Yeah, certainly. Again, if you have kids, particular underlying health issues and stuff, obviously that's going to be factors you would have to consider. But again, just sort of central to the question, I just think, you know, it's probably not the best decision to make a decision based on somebody else's opinion and view of what you can do. Ultimately, you would be the person to know your capabilities and what you can achieve. And I would always encourage someone to, you know, even when you grow up, to find that inner kid who has that desire just to be curious and to try, rather than just fitting into these boxes that family, society, and others will put on us naturally anyways.
Yeah.
Listen, yeah, Jordan's 100%. The inner self is a funny story. As a coach, I always ask a client, "What's your purpose? What's your why?" And if you can't define that, then you're going to flip and flop and possibly fail. But as you said, Liana, your circumstances could have a lot to do with it. You know, culturally, physically, mentally, and financially. You haven't got 100 grand sitting in the bank. How are you going to set up your business if you haven't got a plan to pay the bills as you build that business? So it's a two-way process. Listen to yourself, listen to your heart, but take on board your immediate environment. It may be something you do later. It may be something you do incrementally towards building that bigger dream later. And, you know, we all get primed with stories by all the great and good of this world. Very few of them started off doing what they are doing now. It got to them eventually. You know, a lot of sacrifices were made, a lot of heart strings were broken, but very few of them just went straight off the bat and did what they wanted to do. It takes time. It takes time and planning.
Thank you both. I'm just checking the chat. Do we have any other questions before we're bang on 5 p.m. Excellent timing. If we don't have any other questions, just to let everybody know that this session is recorded. So if you do want to have access to it later, I'm sure you can get in contact probably with Sophie if you want to get a hold of that. I just want to thank you, Jordan and Bayo, both of you so much for coming along to our Diversity and Inclusion Careers panel. You've given some really great insights as well, and I wish we had longer to discuss a lot more things as well. I hope everybody that's attended today, thank you again, that you've been able to take some really important notes from these really, special stories and the conversations that we've had, and we hope that you found them valuable. And yeah, we'd like to close with some final words from our panelists about considering higher education and also considering your career path in your industry when you're preparing for the world of work. Before I hand over to Jordan and Bayo just to give their closing words, I would say also at Middlesex University, we do have a careers team that can help you. And, we're always kind of here to have those really transparent conversations with you. So I know personally with all my students, I really give realistic advice because I know that every person's different. Everyone has different types of barriers as well. And sometimes we have students coming to us saying that they want to change the type of course they're on, or their mum told them to do this degree, they don't really want to do the degree anymore, so we're experiencing that sense where we know in terms of what different walks of life many of the students are coming from. So we try to give you that firsthand, very real advice and help you to manage your expectations realistically as well. So do take advantage of that and come and see us if you have any kind of questions about your career. I'm one of the careers advisors, so is my colleague Emma as well. And we definitely are there to support, even if it's, sensitive issues in terms of how, if I'm a young Black woman, how do I get into this career path? Maybe your personal skills, you feel you're not confident enough to go into certain arenas as well. We're always there to support you with those things because, we are very transparent. So again, thank you all for coming here today. Jordan, any closing words for our guests today?
Yeah, I would just say listen to yourself. We was talking about purpose before. If there is something that you find yourself always curious about, always talking about for ages, listen to those things and actually do something about it. I know for me, I often go off talking about, mental health institutions, the criminal justice system, and after I had to let that become my focus, and it is, essentially my purpose in terms of the career route I'm on now. And then I would say, as far as higher education, make that decision for you, and do tons of research to make sure that uni is the most necessary route, because it is an expensive route. So if you know for sure that your career necessitates you going to uni, like, psychology and, somewhat maybe engineering and courses like that, then obviously you go. But if there are courses that are a bit more flexible, or pathways that are more flexible, music, drama, and so on and so forth, maybe consider alternative routes in which you could probably save yourself a lot of change and maybe even time. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Bayo.
I'm going to leave you with two quotes. The first is my own, and the second one is a general one, which a lot of people might know. So my one is, a satisfied life is better than a successful life, because our success is often measured by others, but our satisfaction is measured by our soul, mind, and our heart. So as Jordan says, if you're thinking really deeply about that, then you go for it. But then the caveat to all of that is a popular quote: prior planning prevents poor performance. He or she who fails to plan plans to fail. You've got to really look at it, the hard yards that are going to be required for you to do what you need to do. So it's in your heart, great. It's in your soul, even better. It's in your mind, go for it. But plan it and execute it well.
Excellent advice. Thank you for that. Thank you all again for attending today. Thank you for our guests for being here today, and everybody, Sophie, Andre, Emma, Ciara, everybody that's here today. Thank you all, and have a lovely evening, and hopefully we'll be doing this again very, very soon. Bye.